Ratio, an ex-Twitter eulogy, aka Fuck You, Elon, by Stephen Prime. Read by some guy from Anonymous. Warning, this book is written in internet slang and bad language full of salty oaths and bitter sentiments. Well, it is about Twitter after all. First published in 2024 by Hungry Wolf Press. Ratio. Intro. At the Primate, June 6, 2024. We humans have an innate ability to recognize dangerous and mentally unhinged individuals and vote them into positions of power. One like, one retweet. I quit Twitter. Not that it matters, but I had decided to quit way before the 2024 US election and subsequent exodus. I was telling my sisters about it back in August. I said I would make a book out of all my old SNS stuff. My two sisters are also very close friends, and they, unlike almost all my other close friends, use SNS a fair bit, but not Twitter. None of my close friends were ever on Twitter. You see, most of my friends live out in the countryside and they don't give a fuck about much, except their strawberries in the greenhouse. But anyway, my sisters thought it was absurd to do a book of my inane posts and shit posts. Who would want to read that? That's my blood relatives. Later that night, I actually cried, I shit you not. So why am I doing this book, and how the fuck did I manage to get it published? Good questions. Maybe you've stumbled across a tweet or two of mine over the past decade and a half. Maybe you thought this book would be funny. And if you read this far and haven't laughed yet, relax, give it time, you impatient sod. You must have heard of Snippet literacy. People blamed Twitter for that. In fact, they blamed it for everything. I assume that you never even liked Twitter that much either. You probably have more brain cells than you do retweets. You, I assume, like me, are an intelligent, sentient human being with ideas and dreams of your own. And you probably love reading books about people like me, whose ideas and dreams are now lying obliterated on the floor in a pool of digital tears and other bodily pixel fluids, as I delete my Twitter account and try not to choke on my own resentment about the fact that nobody at all, not even closest friends, gave a flying fuck about any of it. Well, I'm always happy to follow any online trend blindly, as part of the rearguard, of course. As I said, I already had the idea of quitting first, but I'm one of the last idiots to actually do it. Well, I've just quit Twitter, made all my stuff private, downloaded the archive. Nope, I don't think I'll go on Blue Sky or Threads either. I'm just utterly and completely over the whole fucking microblogging thing. Yeah, that's what people used to call it. I joined Twitter way back in the day on a sleepless night in London, September 22, 2009, 2:25 a.m. As I said in one tweet marking my 15-year anniversary, it has been literally the worst 15 years of my life. Well, totally not true, obviously. Call it hyperbole, or just a cry for engagement. But would more people have cared if I had been clever and said, it has been literally the most recent 15 years of my life, or something? No, nobody ever gave a shit about me on Twitter. In those 15 years, I amassed a huge following of 73 people. Most of them utterly inactive, nearly catatonic accounts like my own, who never liked or retweeted me, and I never followed any of them back either. Thanks, we were a great team. But I was the epitome of a sore Twitter loser. In those 15 years, I wrote a total of 556 tweets. Each one of them just a stupid little blurb I was hoping someone somewhere might notice and think was funny. Maybe follow me. Mind you, I did get Arnie following me once, very early on. Yes, I checked. It was verified. Arnie's account, like actually Arnold Schwarzenegger. You don't believe me, but ID gaff. I even blogged about it back then, calling it a divine sign to keep writing. No, better than that. A sign from Arnie himself. But Arnie stopped following me when I foolishly sent him a direct message, demanding to know why on earth he was following me. And, like the better part of all our collective judgments, he's decided not to engage anymore. So, I can no longer prove it was Arnie. And the blog post I told you about? Gone. Yeah, I had trouble paying rent, let alone domain names. But seriously, why would I make that up? Oh, yeah, right, to make money and cash in on a lie, right, yeah, sorry. I know that's why we all just quit Twitter. But take my word for it, Arnie followed me, even though I wasn't following him. And I'll tell you such a compelling tale about how and why and what happened next, you will, I'm sure, choose to believe me. Because truth is now about context more than ever. And fuck me, but Twitter was a bastard for out-of-context, essentialized and minimalized shite, and we all fell for it, even though we must have smelled the fart jokes and toxic masculinity for miles. Fact. Men get more retweets than women, even in niche circles like health services research. And that's even when you take account for the fact that Twitter was always a sausage fest at 60.9% male to 39.1% female. Here's a Twitter eulogy in under 280 characters, for old time's sake. Twitter, you beautiful broken hellscape, you gave us trends, wars, and Covfefe. A digital pub where everyone yelled and nobody left sober. Now you're gone, and we're stuck explaining what a ratio was to future generations. Thanks for getting pixel stains all over my life, X. By the way, in case you don't know, a ratio on Twitter is when the number of replies to a tweet vastly outnumbers its likes and retweets. It's basically the internet's way of wrinkling its nose at a bad smell. And it's actually just a simple ratio. So if likes and retweets are greater than the number of replies, that means people agree and or find it funny as fuck. If the replies are greater than the number of likes to retweets, though, that means noses wrinkled, people pissed. A spectacular example that you may remember was the United Airlines incident in 2017. Now, we all know airline companies are arseholes, and it was one of the reasons nobody, except billionaire dicks like Virgin megaboss and NHS suing mass killer Richard Branson, had any sympathy when airlines were fucked by COVID. There was a widely circulated video, equal parts tragicomedy and shocking, of a passenger who refused to get off the plane after it was overbooked. Dr. David Dow was the dude's name, and he got a broken nose, though that's nothing compared to the sting from the millions of people who saw him being dragged down the aisle of the plane as he was wrenched from his precious seat and personal dignity. In the aftermath, CEO Oscar Munoz issued a statement, which is a fancy word for a tweet. This is an upsetting event to all of us here at United. I apologize for having to re-accommodate these customers. That got Mr. Munoz a whopping 50,700 replies, but only 6,274 likes. A stark 8-to-1 ratio. But who the fuck were those 6,000 likes from? Now, the reason I'm telling you that is obviously to make this book worthy of buying, it needs to have more words than what I wrote on Twitter over the past 15 years. So I'm riffing, I'm vibing, I'm spewing facts and shitting stats to keep your attention. It's the attention economy, after all, and I'm bored of rereading my tweets as well. I wanted to fit it into a broader context and make sense of it, and try to find out where the last 15 years of my life went. You know, after a nasty breakup, you might either A, see a therapist, or B, get really drunk, or C, do both over an extended period. It's like that. So here is some more interesting shit, but this time, its purpose is merely to demonstrate that I actually know stuff, and don't just rip off Wikipedia articles and plagiarize them for money like some fuckers out there do. Yes, like you, I'm skeptical of every word I read at the moment in case some lazy tosser just got ChatGPT to write it all. Though it's a lie to say I don't use an LLM when I write, as even a basic text is AI-powered nowadays. Anyway, also, my grammar ability has been affected by reading stuff like I can has cheeseburger for way too long. Well, John Lennon once said, "I put things down on sheets of paper and stuff them in my pockets. When I have enough, I have a book." I found that quote in Far Out magazine, but I'm pretty sure I also read it in Barry Miles' biography of Paul McCartney. In true Lennon-esque fashion, you could say I took this ethos to heart with this little book of pixel farts. In fact, Lennon would have probably been huge on Twitter. Imagine. This short story from his first book would have been utterly spot on for Twitter. A man went into a shop and bought a pair of shoes. He put them on and walked out of the shop. The shop was on fire. John Lennon in his own right, 1964. I can even see exactly which gif he'd put. Casey Green's question hound in the burning house saying, "This is fine." I know this book sounds like a bit of a bitterness concept and I could have been someone cry drama puke fest. I know, I did Twitter all wrong. You have to be consistent, play the long game, engage people. All this shite. Who has fucking time for that? Well, everyone, it seems. The whole world is full of influencers now. Everybody has at least 50k followers, and any less makes you look pathetic. For 15 years, I've had my flies down and my dick hanging out like a prat, when I should have been churning out good satire, wry observation, and sarcastic wit with a ceaseless consistency like a machine or human algorithm. Instead, I was working 2 jobs, raising a family, and moving to another country. My life was a pathetic jumble of chaos, and my SNS feeds reflected the fact that most of the time I did post anything, it was when I was drunk, drunker, or drunk and bitter. In an odd way, this book is a bit of a mirror for me to hold up to myself and notice what an arsehole I've been for the last 15 years. I wanted something, but not enough to actually make it happen. I wanted followers, but I didn't know why, and I didn't care who. I wanted recognition, but for what? I hadn't done anything. I'm fucking oversharing here now, that's a given. There are established links between SNS, addiction, and depression. Obviously, if I was drunk all the time in the last 15 years, that tells you something about me. It tells me something about me too. Something I was clearly too drunk to notice before. I was also pretty bitter about stuff, but not proactive. This is a sign of depression, so yeah, this book is also a kind of therapy for me. If you have just quit Twitter and you're feeling blue, and I don't mean blue sky blue, fuck that, well then I hope reading these sad but hopefully very fucking funny little pixel farts and void chirps will make you realize it was all a big fucking embarrassing waste of time. This is a curated book of my best blurt bites and tweet splats. Goodbye, Twitter, present to the world. You're very much welcome. ERRATA. Warning! I wrote some of this book in internet slang, and I wrote some of it actually on the internet. All the misspellings are on purpose. Yeah, it's how we, middle-aged young people, talk. And if you don't like it, sorry, who cares? Well, actually, lots of people on Twitter still do care about correct language use, and misspellings and grammar fuck-ups were always a great source of bants. Remember Covfefe? More on that later. But the internet loves word goofs, and they are often the origin of memes and even slang words, the obvious example being pwned. Oh, speaking of pwning, people love a bit of one-upmanship on Twitter, and inevitably there was even an @GrammarPolice account, which was kind of funny. OG tweet: "They're going to the concert without me." There, spelt wrong of course, @GrammarPolice comes in. "They are going to the concert without you, and you are going without proper grammar." Interestingly, I couldn't find the original tweet of that, hence the tweet is missing its date. I was also surprised that this famous account only has 363 followers. My grand's account's got more than that. I fear this example might be an AI hallucination, but even so, I like it. For some balance, here is a genuine one from them, @GrammarPolice, September 12, 2013. "Was about to correct someone's #grammar when I wondered if I only do that to overcompensate for not being good at other things. 2 likes, 1 retweet. I looked, but I couldn't find @GrammarPolice's response to the Covfefe incident. You need to know the speaker's intent to be able to correct them, and nobody to this day knows what the fuck Trump was on about when he tweeted the word, and perhaps it's better that way? No, it definitely is. In the Japanese media, there was a recent report of a phenomenon known as time performance, or timepa for short, where people are watching shit speeded up 2 times so they can fit more into a shorter time. People are overwhelmed at the amount of content out there, so they need to hack and get through it all. Another thing is that it feels like I have to get this book out now, like yesterday. It's timely now, but also I need the closure. I want to move on, do something a lot better with my life and my time. So yeah, the book went through production and all that as fast as it could. Nice but very small team at the publishers, worked around the clock, but any spelling errors or factual fuck-ups are on me. I've indicated sources as much as I could. Spoiler alert, I don't know everything there is to know about every little thing, but I've tried to be factually close, if not always bang on. Be sure to check things up. And yeah, I know you won't. Special bit of bonus content for the audiobook as well. I am recording this in my house, which is next to a bus stop, and I can't stop the bus, and I don't have enough money to hire a proper studio. I will be selling this audiobook as cheaply as I possibly can, but in order to be able to sell some audiobooks, you have to charge something for them. And I don't think that it's totally rubbish, but I totally get you. I'm one of those ASMR people. I don't like the fact that you might hear background noises in the recording, but tough shit, guys. Sorry, I'm not going to I might redo it if it sells a lot of copies. but please don't give me a bad review just because you heard a bus go past, okay? You've been warned. The early days. On the Twitternet, nobody knows if you're a poet or a porn star, and even if they do, they don't give a fuck. The early days. At the Primate, December 14, 2009. We are simultaneously the most intelligent and the most utterly stupid being on the planet. 0 likes, 0 retweets. Rewind to 2006, a brainstorming blitz at Audio, a podcasting company going nowhere fast. Enter Jack Dorsey, a college kid with a spark of madness and an idea. SMS as a public bullhorn, a quick ping to the universe. The result, Twitter, a platform born on 140 characters, concise but cutting, like Hemingway with a keyboard. But July that year, it roared to life. Fast forward to 2012, 100 million users were vomiting 340 million tweets a day. Raw, unfiltered thoughts, the good, the bad, and the unhinged. By 2013, Twitter was public and potent, its pulse felt across the globe. But fame is a double-edged sword. Twitter tangled with content moderation hell and a miasma of misinformation, each step forward dragging a shadow behind it. By 2023, Twitter ceased to be Twitter. Jack's bird morphed into Musk's Frankenstein X. The merge, the rebrand, the cringe, it all reeks of hyper-masculine ego, a billionaire's fever dream. Snippet literacy, the art of the microburst. Twitter wasn't just a tool, it was a linguistic paradigm shift. Forget essays or manifestos, this was a sniper's platform, a place for brevity, wit, and precision. 140 characters, make 'em sing. And they did, until they didn't. What we gained? Twitter taught the masses to strip their thoughts bare, sanding down verbosity to polished fragments. It was punk rock communication, fast, raw, and searing. Anyone could shout anything they wanted into the echo chamber and enjoy the feeling flocking starlings must feel when one rando gets to be the leader of the murmuration for a few minutes. I could quote Andy Warhol's 15 minutes of fame here, but I can't be arsed. What we lost, brevity, is a snake with venom in its teeth. Arguments withered into slogans. Context bled dry in the name of engagement. Wit gave way to outrage. Outrage became currency. Twitter made us snarky, yes, but it also made us shallow as fuck. The British satirist Chris Morris and Armando Iannucci have a great phrase on their 1994 news parody The Day Today. Bagpiping fact into news. You can almost hear the trumped-up visual and graphic which would follow that claim. It's very apt phrase when thinking about fucking Twitter. Of course, when they named it Twitter, they knew what they were doing. Co-founder Jack Dorsey said, Twitter means a short burst of inconsequential information and mimics chirps from birds. 2 years after Twitter was inflicted upon the world, American superstar linguist Naomi Barron's 2008 book, Always On, hit the shelves fast on its heels. And yeah, I realise 2 years is not that fast, but this is an academic book, so... Anyway, she explores the concept of snippet literacy, which is a phenomenon where digital reading and communication habits favour short, fragmented bursts of information over sustained, in-depth engagement. Barron examines how the proliferation of digital devices and online platforms shapes our approach to text and literacy, promoting skimming and scanning, quick consumption rather than thorough understanding or deep critical thinking. Yeah, not sure what gave her that idea. Baron beats the drum of warning, pounding out a rhythm of restless minds and fractured thoughts. She sees the long shadow of the snippet, the fast-cut, quick-fix dopamine hit blur of words, as a slow bleed on attention spans, an erosion of comprehension, a grindstone shaving down the brain's gears. The clash is sharp, the sleek seduction of instant knowledge versus the slow, messy labour of deep thinking, of savouring text like a meal instead of scarfing it down like junk food. What gets lost, she warns, is the marrow, the grit, the real muscle of literary and mental power. I wouldn't know anything about that, as I've been pissing my life away on Twitter for over a decade. The C words, context collapse. I signed up for Twitter on September 22nd, 2009, 2:25 a.m. London, England, Europe, Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe. When you put it like that, it's clearly a very specific and yet utterly meaningless event. Who gives a fuck, right? 15 years later, and the answer is still the same. No one. Not one person gave a fuck then, and nobody ought to give one now either. But that was a relatively long time ago in the world of fast memes and trending cycles of circular reporting, and a lot has changed. Back in the day, Twitter was just as vacuous a concept then as it is now, a stupid shitty idea, originally only 140 characters. How I remember deleting and rewording things, cutting out nuance. It was fail nice, a surgical idea, I suppose. Perhaps Dorsey's ethos was all about cutting out the crap. Ironic, that. It was never meant to be a place where people got most of their news. I signed up and chose a username, sprimate, original her, which I later changed in 2009 to The Primate. But my display name was always set as Stephen Prime. Why did I make a Twitter account, I wonder? None of my friends, even my social media-obsessed sisters, were on Twitter. I was heading into a new world where nobody knew me and everything I said or said I did or said I thought would be public to the world and condensed into something very easy to share. Why venture into such a weird network? For the lulz? No, sadly, nothing as noble as that. I was trying to work on my career as a writer of weird, edgy poems. I thought, if ever there would be a market for humorous, acerbic little sound bites, it would be Twitter. And back in those days, Twitter was just starting to get established. You can read all about this on history.com, by the way, which is funny, as Twitter definitely is history now. It was officially launched to the public on July 15th, 2006 during President George W. Bush's administration, but Bush wasn't on Twitter. No, that would have made even that warmongering sack of shit look absurd. In those early days, Twitter was already well known as an echo chamber for idiots, and I felt right at home. Barack Obama was the first US president to use Twitter publicly, during the first ever Twitter town hall at the White House on July 6, 2011. It had gone from inane concept for nobodies to quite an outlet. In fact, major news corporations began adopting Twitter around the time of its public launch in 2006. The platform's real-time communication capabilities quickly attracted media outlets, which started using it to disseminate news and engage with audiences. Twitter's popularity surged, further encouraging news organizations to establish a presence on the platform. In those days, Twitter was small. I mean small, yeah. It was teeny. In 2008, it had 1.3 million registered users. which jumped to 6.9 in 2009. But the biggest growth the inane torrent of shite ever saw was in 2010, the year after I joined. Users went up by about 800%, and there were 54 million people on there. I was living in London at the time, and it felt crowded, but in the entire country there were only 63 million. By 2011, there were more people on Twitter than there were in the entire United Kingdom. And, amazingly, despite the mass exodus we've just seen as Musk stinks up the whole world with his billionaire jism brain and onanism approach to doing business, there are still over 400 million people babbling their inane void chirps into the internet. As a recent estimate, approximately 500 million tweets are sent daily, which is about 6,000 tweets per second, 350,000 per minute, and around 200 billion tweets a fucking year. And of course, we all know it blows up regularly with big spikes during major events like the World Cup or, I don't know, let me see, a major presidential election. My first ever tweet looked like this. At the Primate, September 22, 2009. I am updating my website, stephenprime.com. Check out visuals for Tortoise Roadkill on YouTube. 0 likes, 0 retweets. I must have been very happy to get a few followers on Twitter, but really my writing at the time was very vitriolic. Worse than now even. And I was quite fond of the old C word. This is just a warning that if you search the net, you can probably find a fair few C-bombs. But in the late 2010s, in Britain, I must say, the C word was shocking, but it was hardly something you could get cancelled for. However, I felt it was a mark of the type of people I could engage with, namely people who use expletive language and motherfucking big grown-up swear words. Studies have shown that creative swearing is actually a sign of intelligence, by the way. There's a book by Emma Byrne called Swearing is Good for You, The Amazing Science of Bad Language, and it says so in there. Fucking good book. That's a bit of context for what happened next. At the Primate, September 22, 2009. Life is lethal in large doses. New short story. 0 likes, 0 tweets. At the Primate, September 22, 2009. Searched cunt and followed everyone who used it in the last 10 minutes. Result? Cunts everywhere. 0 likes, 0 retweets. Now, in my infinite wisdom, I had searched the C word and found a bunch of people who had used it. Then I followed them all. Sadly, this brought me into contact with lots of fellow idiots, regardless of their ideas or interests. Now, what these delightfully playful and random experiments with social media achieved were to poison my Twitter algorithm, which at the time I didn't know anything about, and to this day is still closely held corporate secret as to how it actually fucking works. The other thing I did was to search for a bunch of porn stars and follow not the stars, but the people who were openly following these porn stars on Twitter. One such dude was called Cacao Cowboy 69, handle changed for anonymity. Why, I have no idea. The guy's public on Twitter. At the Primate, September 25, 2009, found this amazing horny nutter called Cacao Cowboy 69. This guy's ace. Check out his page. 0 likes, 0 retweets. The Primate, September 26, 2009. My guy Cacao Cowboy 69 is perving like a motherfucker. Know any other good weirdos to follow? 0 likes, 0 retweets. Sure, don't get me started on porn, but I personally wouldn't want my public Twitter account to be associated with porn stars, as people would then have hard proof of the fact that I'm a total wanker. It interested me from an anthropological perspective that these wankers were openly following their idols. Openly being wankers. That takes balls or similar equipment. or stupidity. I suppose it could be a lot more embarrassing, say, if you were following Justin Bieber or somebody. That would be very shameful shit right there. Well, I thought this was fun and subversive at the time, and maybe it was, maybe not. But it did create a very difficult and unpredictable pattern of behaviour for my account right off the bat. The Twitter engine had no idea how to place me, as even now I've explained it, the lack of logic is rather evident. Nice job, younger me. I guess I deserved those 15 years in the microblogging wilderness for that. However, I will say this. There were some sweet and tender moments that I observed a few times in those early days, as the porn follower people would say night-night to the starlet stars they loved, and a lot of the stars would tweet photos of themselves with no makeup or just cuddling up with a cat and a book on a rainy day. You know, humanizing stuff. And the audience didn't tweet smutty requests to those people. Well, probably a lot of them did. No, they were sending night-night hugs and kisses back. It made me realize that no matter how sad and pathetic you are, people still just want to be loved. I would also like to say that I did start following one ex-adult star, Aurora Snow, as she became a very real journalist who covers the sex industry with an insider's perspective. Well, it was clear even then that on the Twitternet, nobody knows if you're a poet or a porn star, and if they do, they de-gaff. You can still be anything you want and get likes. Unless you're me, that is. I got nothing. Now, the problem with all these shenanigans is that they play right into the razor-sharp edge of the buzzsaw Venn diagram of context collapse. The fuck is context collapse? At the Primate, October 16, 2009. Imaginative ways to get fired. 1. Come to work dressed as a toilet brush and head barge your boss's arse. 0 likes, 0 retweets. This tweet gives you some idea why I use a pen name. And that's also why I sound like a guy from Anonymous. I don't want my boss knowing I once contemplated sticking my head up their arse. Anonymity on SNS is sometimes as vital as a VPN. It's all about context. Now, context collapse is a phenomena that occurs when social media flattens the boundaries between different audiences, forcing individuals to address multiple groups simultaneously. A kind of digital blender, if you will. Coined by Dana Boyd, and yes, her name is spelled with a lowercase b, a social media scholar, and it was elaborated by Alice Marwick, and the theory describes the merging of diverse social contexts, family, friends, co-workers and strangers, all squashed into a single, undifferentiated audience. Imagine telling a joke to your close friends. Now imagine telling the same joke to your grandmother, your boss, and a room full of strangers. What might land as humour with one group could bomb spectacularly with another. On platforms like Twitter, where posts are often public and easily shared, this flattening of audiences means users must navigate the impossible task of addressing everyone at once. Imagine, say, a teacher on Twitter a few drinks in. He sees one of his students and they start a discussion. See the problem? Normally, pissed-up teachers don't frat with brats, but this time, things could even get flirty or downright dirty. Boyd and Marwick argue that context collapse creates unique challenges in managing self-presentation. In face-to-face communication, we adjust our language, tone, and even topics based on who we're talking to. Social media strips away these nuances, replacing tailored communication with broadcast-style messages. And this can lead to misunderstandings, unintentional offense, or the oversimplification of complex ideas for fear of backlash. For example, A tweet intended as an in-joke for friends might be interpreted differently and go viral among strangers. This could be an invitation for criticism and harassment. Celebrities and influencers are especially vulnerable to context collapse, as their audiences are a patchwork of fans, detractors, and casual observers. Context collapse also complicates authenticity. Marwick and Boyd note that balancing multiple identities for disparate audiences can feel performative, leading some users to curate an online persona that sacrifices sincerity for safety or broader appeal. This balancing act highlights the tension between authentic and managing one's image in the face of countless unseen viewers. Ultimately, context collapse isn't just a technical issue, it's a cultural one. It reshapes how we think about audiences, identity, and communication in the digital age. Platforms thrive on collapsing contents, and viral content benefits from reaching as many people as possible. But the human cost, stress, miscommunication, and performative identity remains an unresolved consequence of our hyperconnected world. And now what we see is contexts being folded into datasets of staggering size, full of information about users' habits, shopping and movement, spending beliefs, political ideologies, and whatever the fuck else there is a table for the database on. It's scary, but some governments have already weaponized this information on their populace in order to control and subjugate the masses. Fuck me, that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's actually just how things are in China with their social credit system. What would George Orwell make of all this? And would Orwell have been able to come up with anything as absurd and inane as this tweet? At the Primate, December 14, 2009. We are simultaneously the most intelligent and the most utterly stupid being on the planet. 0 likes, 0 retweets. Finding my voice. Okay, now we get to the real black centipede meat. These are just a few of the inane things I chose to tweet from those early days. I categorize them, but basically they're just floating here in the middle of the beginning of this book like the idiotic dangleberries they are. Deep. Thought this category would impress you all. Profound AF. At the Primate, November 11, 2009. If you see an X-ray of yourself, is that the real you? Are we just living bones, which nothing but black inside? A vacuum inside white bone. 0 likes, 0 retweets. I only had one profound one. Next category, dark. Loads more in this category. Obviously, sometimes I was quite low and made my sad and bleak views public, wanting to perhaps to bring down other people with me in a pathetic and sad, lonely public display of emotion. Luckily, absolutely nobody noticed. At the Primate, March 30th, 2010. Life is a hollow hole we fuck ourselves into and prematurely ejaculate. 0 likes, 0 retweets. I wonder why no one liked that one. At the Primate, March 24, 2010. Broken inhibitions, sex clones with 6 cocks and 7 cunts fucking in 0 gravity while the camera does an oscilloscope on the action from behind. 0 likes, 0 retweets. I think someone actually made that film. Full disclosure though, I was probably trying to promote my poem called Porn Clones, which isn't in this book, but it was published as a video on YouTube. And unlike my other poems, has yet to be taken down, because it has way more views than any of my other videos, simply on account of how porn-obsessed people are on YouTube, the horrid little video anchors. At the Primate, November 10, 2009. What would you rather eat? Dog shit or human shit? What does that say about humans? 0 likes, 0 retweets. Well, you can infer from the above that I would rather eat dog shit than human shit. I did ask someone else this, and they replied with a bit too much thought, saying it depends on what the human or the dog had eaten for the past 12 to 24 hours. At the Primate, November 4, 2009. As Christmas approaches, so do the roaches. StephenPrime.com. 0 likes, 0 retweets. I am actually hoping to get this book ready before Christmas this year, so you can stick it in the bottom of your stockings and never look at it again. Non-Christmassy edit. I am currently fucked on New Year's Eve and hoping to some fucking how launch this egg of Twitter sperm shit out of my brain and into your mind womb. Fuck, all of this will make sense if you ever read to the end. But Christ, I do not want any fucking Twitter in my 2025. No thanks, no. PHP shortcode grammar logic. Arnie. As a kid growing up in the 80s, Arnie was He-Man for me. Well, now I'm a grown-up, he's no longer He-Man, but he is the man. And one day, back in 2009, I logged into Twitter and saw my measly follower count had gone up yet again. In my excitement, I posted the following. At the Primate, October 15, 2009. I must be awesome! Arnold Schwarzenegger is following me! 0 likes, 0 retweets. Okay, I know you won't believe me and I can no longer prove this, but it really was the real Arnie. How do I know? I clicked the profile and it had a little blue seal next to it. That's how I knew. I checked this and the verified accounts program on Twitter was set up in June 2009, so the dates link up. It was created, incidentally, after the Void Chirp dispensary was dissed by Kanye West and sued by Tony La Russa over unauthorized fake-ass accounts run by impersonators. So, what did I do next? I wrote a blog post about it, as if it was a sign from God. Actually, I respect Arnie even more than God. Not his politics or his extramarital affairs, his muscles and his movies, his cool sense of humour, and the fact that he did it all with English as his second language. So what did I do? I sent him a direct message. At the Primate, October 15, 2009, 2:53 a.m. Hey, you've made my day. What made you click follow? Was it ant monkeys? I sent him a link to my ant monkeys poetry video. Don't bother searching for that though. YouTube took it down on Sunday 19th December 2021, claiming my poem about how the human race was a horrible destructive species that live out of balance with the earth was hate speech. I appealed, but they said it still was. FYI, my Ant Monkeys poem has the C word in it, but then so does Allen Ginsberg's Sunflower Sutra. Now, I know this is one of those excuses, but Ant Monkeys was originally published in a zine called The Vein, which was edited by a very wonderful young woman named Jamie Calley, and she had no problem with the language. I just searched for it though, and surprise, surprise, it is long gone, and Jamie has changed her last name. Presumably she's grown up a lot more than I have since then. Talk about the ephemeral nature of shit online. Anyway, as you can guess, Arnie never replied, and he is no longer following me. But it doesn't matter. I was on Arnie's radar for a while, once upon a time. I also once left a printout of my poems with the doorman of Bruce Willis's New York apartment. If Bruce ever did get those poems, maybe that's what caused his tragic memory illness. Back to 2009, Arnie following me was all I could tweet about. At the Primate, October 16, 2009. Awesome! Arnie's still following me! I rock! 0 likes, 0 retweets. At the Primate, October 22, 2009. Wow! First Arnie following me on Twitter, now Jim Carrey is my friend on Facebook. I'm ace! StephenPrime.com. 0 likes, 0 retweets. At the Primate, October 22, 2009. Actually, now I'm not sure it is the real Jim Carrey. At least I know Arnie is for real. 0 likes, 0 retweets. At the Primate, October 29, 2009. This guy called Apocalypse is following me. He's almost as ace as Schwarzenegger, who is also following me, by the way. 0 likes, 0 retweets. At the Primate, November 5th, 2009. Hey, Twitter bugs, what is the point? The only people who read my blogs are porn hoes and cash bloggers. Oh, and Arnie, StephenPrime.com. 0 likes, 0 retweets. At the Primate, March 23, 2010. Blogging and tweeting is so utterly pointless. If it weren't for the fact that Arnie is following me, I'd have nothing to say to you arseholes. 0 likes, 0 retweets. Now, this might look inane to you, but my friends at the time thought the story was funny. However, they also did not believe me about Arnie, and they were so disgusted by my Twitter project that they couldn't even be bothered to create an account to check and, maybe follow me. No, they were all much too high and mighty for Twitter, and they stayed clean and pure. My escapades on Twitter had started to warp me, lashing out at my followers. Not cool, right? Wrong. One guy on Twitter, the Mozart to my Salieri, was doing just that and getting fat likes. His name was Wint back then, and his handle was @dril. Dril, July 12, 2020. My followers are stupid as fuck. They are all on crank, and they hate all my shit. 18,000 likes, 1.5 thousand retweets, and 144 fucking comments. What the fuck? Who was this guy? And why wasn't he me? The middle bit. Slow internet is a sign that you have masturbated enough, and it's time for other people to have their turn. The middle bit. At the Primate, August 29, 2019. Technically, you can't not give a fuck unless it's from the Fouque region of France. Otherwise, it's just sparkling indifference. 0 likes, 0 retweets. From 2011 to 2019, Twitter was like a chaotic dinner party where revolutions, memes, and petty arguments all fought for the last slice of attention pie. 2011 brought the Arab Spring, where Twitter flexed its muscles as a tool for real political change, briefly tricking everyone into thinking the platform would save humanity. By 2014, we were retweeting Ellen's Oscar selfie with Brand's discovered personality and started tweeting like unhinged teenagers. And then Trump arrived in 2016 and turned Twitter into his personal megaphone and made 280 characters feel like 280 grenades thrown into the media cycle daily. Meanwhile, misinformation skyrocketed, bots infiltrated every hashtag, and Dril noisily held the fort of weird Twitter with his absurdist bullshit. By 2019, Twitter had fully evolved into its final form. Half town square, half gladiator pit, moments of genuine connection or wit were drowned in outrage, algorithms, and 24-hour memes. It wasn't all bad, just mostly exhausting. By 2011, I had moved from London to Tokyo. As the famous literary critic, essayist, and dictionary dude Samuel Johnson once said, "When a man is tired of London, he's tired of life, for there is in London all that life can afford." Well, I couldn't afford to fucking live in London anymore. At the Primate, November 26, 2009. The taste of London, like a used condom sandwich, Gutless lawyers and bankers thrive along with the rats and the politicians. 0 likes, 0 retweets. In moving to Japan, my pool of English-speaking friends got smaller, and it was far away, and totally out of time sync. Timing is important on SNS for engagement. There are websites that you can use to calculate the perfect fucking time to unleash a post. Yeah, I know all about them. They didn't help me at all. In moving to Tokyo, I had moved into the future, and as we look back, we know that the future is fucking fucked, and not a good place to be right now. In this section, I'll tell you all about how Twitter became too big for its own huge torrent of shite, and how I wrestled with jealousy and indifference. Dril. In the last chapter, I said dril was Mozart to my Salieri. I mean, that's funny and shit, but come on, Mozart? Everyone knows Mozart was overrated. If you've been paying attention, which no doubt you haven't because of snippet literacy and the attention economy, you will remember that I started my account on September 22nd, 2009. Dril started his account on September 15th, 2008. At the time of writing, Dril has 14.2 thousand posts and a whopping 1.7 million followers. And while the mystique once suggested nobody knew who he was, the poor dude got fucking doxed, something to do with rights when he wanted to publish a book of his tweets. Great idea. And it was revealed that Dril is Paul Dockney, a 30-something man from New Jersey who, in an interview with The Ringer, mentioned he earns about as much money as a Kmart manager or something. As we've already established, Dril is known for his absurdist humour and has been a significant figure in online culture since his account's inception. Notable tweets. No. Dril's inaugural tweet simply stating no, which I link to a story about John Lennon meeting Yoko Ono at some other point in this book. Who the hell is screaming log off at my house? Show yourself, coward. I will never log off. That wasn't me, I promise. If your grave doesn't say rest in peace on it, you are automatically drafted into the skeleton war. I think there was an actual game made from this tweet. I don't know, but I definitely want to be a part of the skeleton army. So, when I die, make sure my grave clearly indicates my rank and status. I want to be a fat, rich skeleton commander. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Dril used Patreon to fund a game he was making, which seems to be called Viral Dominion, and I think is perhaps still in development. He also produced a huge book titled The Get Rich and Become God Method. If you sub to his Patreon, you can listen to his Final Mouth podcast. I believe that he's also got some projects with Adult Swim to make a TV show. Ugh, to be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm over it. Alls you need to know is this. Dril is basically the de facto god of weird Twitter. When Musk made Twitter X and started asking people to pay to get a blue seal next to their name, Dril got one for free and had them remove it. He made a big war out of it. He's very anti-Musk, and we seem to see eye to eye politically, but unlike me, he could actually fill a book with all his tweets. My conservative estimate is that at 100 words per tweet, he'd be looking at nearly 250,000 words with his 14k tweets. My 556 tweets added up to a mere 8,286 words. It's like looking in a fucking mirror. A mirror to another dimension. Or, actually, it's like someone sent me out to buy booze, and when I got back to the party, it's descended into a brilliant orgy. But the doors are locked, and all I can do is watch through the window. With the booze, of course. At least I did have that. The inaugural no tweet reminds me of another John Lennon thing. And in fact, wow, I just remembered how I found out about Dril in the first place. Strap in for the narrative. Dril has just under 2 million followers. Not too shabby, eh? But not massive either. The great man himself has this to say on the matter. At Dril, June 27, 2023. Realized having 20 million followers is a bad idea when I posted about being sawed in half by a car and a guy got mad at me because it happened to him. 13,000 likes, 660,000 retweets, and 47 comments. A funny riff. He's actually talking about context collapse here. Speaking of saying whatever the fuck you want without fearing the consequences, for perspective, the @RealDonaldTrump handle had 88.7 million followers when his account was officially suspended in January 2021. I just checked again, November 2024, and the man has 95 million followers. That's a lot of fucking people. And as far as I can tell, there are only like 13 countries in the world with populations higher than that. So, he has more followers than most countries have people. With only a small 2 million, I'd have been happy with 2,000 followers, Dril was a bit niche, perhaps. This is how I heard of Dril. I lied before when I said none of my close friends use Twitter. I mean, I'm from Yorkshire, but we do have electricity up in the hills. I had exactly one friend who used Twitter, and he was actually pretty big too, even had a viral tweet once, 50,000 likes. Anyway, I think I was telling him about how John Lennon met Yoko Ono. It was 1966, an art exhibit in London where gravity bent. Yoko Ono was the artist and Lennon was impressed with the stepladder that had a magnifying glass at the top and a tiny little note reading, "Yes." Lennon peers through the magnifying glass, pleased it didn't say no. When he asked Yoko Ono, "What's this about?" she just smirked and fired back, "That's for you." It's the kind of minimalist cheek that sends one marriage to the grave and births a countercultural storm. Historians can't lock down the story's source. It's a mystery swirled in anecdotes and Lennon's scattered interviews. I think maybe I read it in Barry Miles' book many years from now, but who knows? The lore is stickier than the truth. I told my Twitter friend about this, and he told me the thing about Dril's first ever no tweet. You see, if only I'd thought of that. Ever since, a professional rivalry has been born, one that Dril never even noticed. He was so high up there on his 2 million followers that he couldn't even see me all the way down there trying. I even atted him a few couple of times. At the primate, July 27, 2019. It's your fault that it's my fault, at Dril. 0 likes, 0 retweets. I guess I was trying to troll people. Surprised the grammar police didn't pick me up for that one, though. Oh yeah, it had a spelling mistake in it. Well, technically a rogue missing apostrophe. Okay, at the primate, March 4th, 2021. How can I get as many followers as at Dril without bothering to tweet all that inane shite? 0 likes, 0 retweets. Mind you, it's got to be tough up at the top as well. At Dril, June 15, 2023. Frankly, many of my followers are dirty and stupid, and only pretend to understand the significance of my posts. 5.8 thousand likes, 675,000 retweets, and 97 comments. But he must feel like a right prick now. Millions of followers on Twitter is like Enron shares. There has to be an Elon pun in there somewhere. I see that of late, Dril is full-time trying to troll X over the stupid blue seal that you have to pay for. He gets it free as the king of weird Twitter, but he asked them to remove it, and that's a pretty boss retro cocaine Miami Vice vibes thing to do when you look at the high-resolution retro promotional materials. With the rolled-up sleeves and the bright suits. Nice, yeah, but you're not going home with my daughter, punk. Hey, Dril, bought your book of tweets, and I would buy another. LMK if you need a ghostwriter. DM me, dude. Also, remember that introductory tweet of drills from all those pages ago? Remember ratios as well? I ran the maths. Likes to retweets ratio, 18,000 likes divided by 1,500 retweets equals 12 to 1. For every retweet, there are 12 likes. Solid like to retweet ratio. People enjoyed it, but didn't feel it was worth amplifying. Comments to likes ratio, 144 comments, 18,000 likes equals 0.008 to 1, or about 1 comment for 25 likes. The comment section is chill for the like count, rarely the case on the internet. Either uncontroversial or vibe everyone agrees with. Comments to retweets ratio, 144 comments to 1,500 tweets equals 0.096 to 1, or roughly comments per 1 comment per 10 retweets. So decent harmony here, people aren't diving into a starter beef. So overall, the post is resonating more for passive consumption, likes, than conversation, comments, or sharing, retweets. It's either wholesome, funny, or so agreeable it escaped the fiery maw of Twitter discourse. I will admit that despite nearly 2 million followers, I have to believe that Dril does in fact have an accurate summation of his earnings. Glamorous influencer? It seems that even if you're famous, if you're weird, it's hard to be rich. So, although he won, I didn't lose. Now I'm going to do something really fun and repurpose something Salieri said in a conversation with Hüttenbrenner on June the 8th, 1822, quoted in Alexander Wheelock Thayer's book Salieri, Rival of Mozart, 1989. Here's what he said. I feel that the end of my days is drawing near. My senses are failing me. My delight and strength in creating tweets are gone. He, Dril, who was once honoured by half of Europe, is forgotten. Others have come and are the objects of adoration and admiration. One must give place to another. Seriously, Dril, DM me, I love you. I don't really know where to put all my tweets. Turns out one of the reasons I didn't get any likes on Twitter was that some of my best stuff wasn't even on there. It was for friends only on Facebook, and I didn't even have a Patreon tier. I'm my own worst enemy sometimes. July 18, 2017, Facebook. Feel like I've been shat through the bowels of an asp. June 14, 2018, Facebook. Don't make the mistake of getting drunk and then assuming that everyone else is as drunk as you. Because they're not. They're really not. January 2nd, 2018, Facebook. Fuck. Now my slippers are going to smell like gin. June 14, 2017, Facebook. I'm all hatey today. At the Primate, Jan 25, 2019. Hashtag need, hashtag advice, hashtag about, hashtag how, hashtag to, hashtag use, hashtag hashtags. 0 likes, 0 retweets. The Primate, September 24, 2017. My internal monologue has Tourette's. 0 likes, 0 retweets. At the Primate, June 15, 2018. Idea for a film, Here and Learning in Las Vegas. A guy travels with his teacher, played by Kevin Spacey, to Las Vegas, where they spend a lot of time watching people play dice to learn about maths and statistics. And then they drive home. 0 likes, 0 retweets. At the Primate, December 14, 2017. Fuck the ubiquity of stupidity. 0 likes, 0 retweets. At the Primate, December 14, 2017. I hate a lot of stuff. One of them is everything. Fucking bus. I hate buses. Did you guys hear that bus go past? Shall I re-record it? I can't be bothered. I'll just keep it in. December 14, 2017, Facebook. No one cares about me, so neither do I. My dad liked that one for me, which is nice. Cheers, Pops. June 30th, 2017, Facebook. Smarmy friend. Okay, if you're so arty and clever, name an artist from Denmark. Me, effortlessly off the top of my head. Asger Jorn. Smarmy friend. Who's your smarmy friend? Me. It's me. This is my own internal monologue. Smarmy friend. I win face. When I had 69 followers. At one point I had 69, and that was my favourite number for whatever puerile reason. At that point, I actually requested no more followers, please. At the Primate, Jan 22, 2019. Please, nobody else follow me, as I have exactly 69 followers, and I like it that way. 0 likes, 0 retweets. I was hoping people would call my bluff and I would go viral. Only 4 more people joined up in the year or two that followed, hence the 73. But funnily, I must have got 2 followers just for the 69 thing, which I now realise isn't bad considering my paltry stats in the first place. Still, I wasn't happy about it. At the Primate, Jan 25, 2019. Now it's gone up to 71 followers. You bastards, ruined all the fun. 0 likes, 0 retweets. This could be on a fucking t-shirt. Twitter's inanity has always been ripe for satire, and plenty of people made careers or cult followings by skewing the platform's absurdities. Some did it with surrealist humour, a la dril. Others turned to music, like Sleaford Mods with their 2014 track Tweet Tweet Tweet. Ironically, it's one of their most famous tracks, but IMHO, it's shit compared to some of their other belters, like Blog Maggot or Job Seeker. Still, the line "all you zombies tweet tweet tweet" resonates sufficiently to get an angry middle-aged nod from most people. Now, if I didn't think there were some merits to Twitter, I would never have gone on there, would I? I'm not an idiot. Well, I am an idiot, obviously, but not an idiot really. An idiot just means an ordinary person. In ancient Greece and Rome, the word idiot, idiotes, originally meant a private person or a common man. It did not have an insulting connotation at the time. And although I'm saying all this shit about how I sucked at Twitter, really though, in my heart of fucking hearts, I know some of this is funny. It's funny to me, at least. Here for a bit more filler are some of the funniest tweets I wrote to an astonishing wall of indifference. Unless otherwise stated, all of these amazingly poignant tweets I wrote got a big fat 0 in the likes department. At the Primate, November 11, 2013. Be unique, just like everybody else. I actually think that one is pretty good. I'm quite sure it's been said before, but I said it that way in 2013, and nobody batted even one of their beautiful, unique eyelashes. Sods. At the Primate, October 3rd, 2013. It's a shame I'm not more ashamed of myself. I don't know what I had done to be ashamed, or not ashamed, but I'm quite proud of the oxymoron. At the Primate, June 10, 2013. The only things that matter to me are things that matter. #pointless. Another trite little saying. I think that's about as deep as you can really go with 140 characters. Twitter moved to 280 characters in November 2017. At the Primate, Feb 14, 2013. So funny I shit my pants. No shit. If you don't know whether to believe I actually shit myself and then posted it on one of the largest open and viewable by anyone in the world's social networks that has ever existed with a user base that now encompasses 12.6% of the world's internet users, then read on, there's a lot more. At the Primate, May 18, 2012. The universe is a fucked up place. I wouldn't want to live there. Come on. That's funny because... oh, never mind. At the Primate, Jan 20, 2012. The universe is the most unfriendly place on Earth. Similar cosmic theme. I think Prometheus had just come out. Oh no, that was a year later on August 24th. So just random cosmic capers then. At the Primate, Jan 23rd, 2012. Excruciating relief. A cryptic tweet. I don't even remember what it was about, but perhaps I was referring to when my big toenail fell off. It's mystifying, but it's nowhere near Covfefe. At the Primate, December 4, 2009. News flash, no one gives a shit. I mean, come on, that's a good one. Not even a single like. If Dril had posted that, he'd have 3 million followers by now. At the Primate, Aug 29, 2019. Technically, you can't not give a fuck unless it's from the Fouque region of France. Otherwise, it's just sparkling indifference. 0 likes, 0 retweets. I actually turned that one into a meme with the correct smug template and everything. Still, no likes. Also, that meme was trending at the time, the whole technically thing, but I was truly met with sparkling indifference. At the Primate, Feb 3rd, 2019. Guess what? Something nobody gives a fuck about has happened. 1 like, 0 retweets. At the Primate, Feb 3rd, 2019. Don't piss on my strawberries. I found the juxtaposition of strawberries and piss very funny. At the Primate, Feb 3rd, 2019. Bastard Fuckosaurus Rex. Remember how creative swearing is a sign of intelligence, according to that book from before I mentioned? Yeah, it clearly doesn't apply to me. I hope you bastards don't steal any of these slogans and put them on a t-shirt. My publisher joked that they are selling merch now if you want. Personally, I don't need your landfill on my conscience, but feel free to spend a penny on my behalf. And note, for anyone not as old and less British than me, spend a penny means to go for a piss, because in Britain we charge you to use the public lavs. Even our piss has been lining the pockets of the ruling elite for at least a few centuries. Oh, speaking of corruption, capitalism and rich rulers, Covfefe. At the Primate, Feb 3rd, 2019. Fuck all cheesy orange fuckwitted things. 0 likes, 0 retweets. 2017, 6 minutes after midnight, Eastern Time, on May 31st, Trump tweeted, "Despite the constant negative press Covfefe." 6 hours later, the tweet was gone, but the fallout, still radioactive. It was a masterclass in presidential eloquence, a profound statement, no doubt leaving the world in awe of its clarity. Covfefe lingered for a solid 360 minutes before vanishing into the digital abyss, but not before igniting a wildfire of internet mockery. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, in a valiant attempt to maintain the mystique, claimed, "The president and a small group of people know exactly what he meant." Of course, because who wouldn't understand such a lucid proclamation? There were so many hilarious memes and riffs and jokes, so many that it wouldn't be my place to curate them all. I've got 500 of my own tweets in this book to worry about, and surprisingly, not one of them mentioned Covfefe. It's like this one little word paralysed my satire engine and sent me into meltdown. In 2017, I was also finishing my PhD IRL, so maybe that had something to do with it. But even though I'm an actual doctor of philosophy, in linguistics no less, I still have no idea what this word fucking means. In the grand tapestry of internet blunders, Covfefe remains a shining beacon, reminding us all of the perils of late-night tweeting without a proofreader. But to be honest, one thing nobody else commented on was the fact that Trump's grammar and spelling in all his other torrents of insane and toxic tweets is actually pretty much spot on most of the time. Very few of them would have riled the grammar police. Maybe having good grammar is overrated. The fruits of an expensive education, perhaps. He knows nothing about reality, but he knows how to use an apostrophe. COVID. Oh, fuck, here we go. Hold tight. We all remember this was the turning point in many of our lives, as shit got real bad real quick and never really got better. The Primate, March 24, 2020. Slow internet is a sign that you have masturbated enough and it's time for other people to have their turn. Hashtag bored at home, hashtag sarcasm, hashtag humour. 0 likes, 0 retweets. Okay, I was going to write a whole thing about this. Remember in 2016 how the saddest shit we could focus on was a spate of dead celebrities? Then in 2019 we were feeling bleak because we couldn't really imagine how shit could get any worse. Remember? And the world didn't just go to hell in 2020, it went all Piper Perry. Trump was bleating, "Fraud!" like a cartoon goat from those trippy 1950s cartoons. He refused to leave the Oval Office, a toddler with nuclear codes clutching his toys. George Floyd's murder once again laid bare the need to specifically state that hashtag Black Lives Matter, and the streets erupted in protests that bled across the globe, fists raised against police brutality and systemic rot. Meanwhile, Australia burned, California burned, and the air choked on the ash of a climate collapse. While billionaires like Bezos raked in record profits, the rest of us were scraping burnt crusts of sourdough from the pan, praying our Wi-Fi didn't stop. Essential workers were called heroes, but we treated them like cannon fodder, working until their lungs gave out for a paycheck that couldn't even cover rent. Isolation ate us alive too. Anxiety and depression skyrocketed, while Zoom calls replaced hugs. Homes became prisons, every wall inched closer, every screen glared brighter, every doom scroll another nail in the coffin of sanity. It was too much to take, too much to process. The centre didn't just fail to hold, it imploded, and the shrapnel is still lodged in all of us. A pandemic of tweets. The pandemic hit like a hammer, blunt and unrelenting. One moment, I was living in a world where Twitter was a constant hum of memes, arguments, and overlong threads. The next, it was ground zero for every ounce of fear, confusion, and righteous fury humanity could muster. By March 2020, my feed was a deluge of uncertainty, bread recipes alongside grim hospital stats, and flatten the curve hashtags next to rants about toilet paper hoarding. It was awful, and I was both too online and not online enough to deal with it. I wasn't tweeting as much, odd considering I had more time. The world stopped, yet somehow I felt heavier, slower. For some reason I didn't really feel like going on Twitter. A pandemic will do that to you. Coronageddon, hashtag coronavirus, hashtag fuck, hashtag bored. That was my mood, a putrid mix of bored, cynical, and trying to wring humour out of the madness. But let's be honest, the energy to engage wasn't there. Twitter, for all its dopamine hits, was exhausting. I tried to play along, people were dying, whole cities shut down. What did my little quips matter? The pandemic should have been a golden age for content. Instead, it became a reckoning. I scrolled endlessly, absorbing news, rumours, and whatever nonsense my timeline spit out. And oh, the nonsense. Conspiracies flowed faster than hand sanitizer. Masks don't work. 5G towers cause COVID. Bill Gates is out here microchipping us with vaccines. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. And then, of course, there was Trump. China virus, he called it, over and over again. He poured gasoline on the fire of racism and misinformation with every tweet. My timeline devolved into shouting matches, hashtags like hashtag Kung Flu, trending alongside calls for compassion. I hated him and I hated how his words infected everything. But I was also a victim of racism myself, even as a white dude. You see, I live in Japan, a fact I find so mundane I rarely remember to cash in on it. And out here, I'm a minority, and specifically English-speaking people were the target of COVID-based racism. In the throes of the pandemic, Japanese TV decided to break the internet by serving up a gem of absurdity. A national television program called Hirobi aired a segment that quickly became infamous and is still viewable on YouTube. The show featured a demonstration claiming that English speakers with their explosive P sounds were propelling viral particles further than the more subdued Japanese pronunciation. To demonstrate, a woman stood with a paper clipped before her face, intoning "Kore wa pen desu," the Japanese for "this is a pen." The paper fluttered gently. Then she unleashed the English, "This is a pen," and the paper flew back as if struck by a gale. The implication? English was a linguistic superspreader. It encapsulated everything Twitter was, a machine that turns molehills into mountains, sometimes with disastrous results. Twitter seized upon this with glee. Parodies emerged, exaggerating the force of English plosives to comedic extremes. One viral video juxtaposed the phrase with scenes of tsunamis and typhoons, suggesting that uttering "pen" in English could unleash natural disasters. The internet's collective sarcasm was a sight to behold, but this was one of those fine examples of how we all split into niches online, but even more so during COVID. Yet beneath the humour lay a critique of pseudoscience and the absurd lengths media would go to explain complex phenomena, especially if they could blame a particular group. Us and them. The segment became a meme, a shorthand for the ridiculousness of oversimplified explanations during a global crisis. Even in a pandemic, the world found time to mock the trivial, to laugh at the ludicrous. "This is a pen" became a symbol of the surreal times we were living through, and a reminder that amidst the chaos, even a privileged white British expat living in Tokyo could end up feeling that he was being discriminated against. Imagine how those other fuckers felt who were genuinely being targeted for serious racial abuse and profiling. Twitter was at once too much and not enough. Every swipe was a fresh wound. Information overload replaced meaningful connection. There were moments of clarity, sure, but mostly it was noise. I thought I'd tweet more during lockdown, but what was there to say? Oh, good. It was only a one-off shart then. I posted in June, but my shart tweets never did well. Like the real-life incident they were based on, they were funny, but ultimately nobody liked them. The pandemic didn't inspire me to create. It drained me. Twitter became a place to witness the chaos, not contribute to it. And yet I kept scrolling, chasing clarity in a fog of hashtags and despair. The virus of fake news. Twitter turned into a petri dish in 2020, amplifying not just the virus but the misinformation that clung to it like a parasite. It started slow. Posts from earnest doctors and government accounts laid out the basics. Wash your hands, stay 6 feet apart, wear a mask. Simple stuff. But then the cracks appeared. Conspiracies sprouted like mould in the damp corners of the internet, each one more bizarre than the last. I remember scrolling past a tweet claiming masks didn't work because viruses are smaller than mask fibres. Someone quote-tweeted it with, "So is your fart, but you still wear pants." I laughed, then cried a little inside because millions of people were taking posts like that seriously. The Bill Gates vaccine conspiracy was a particularly wild ride. People were convinced he'd hidden microchips in the COVID-19 vaccine to track us. Then there was the 5G tower debacle. Entire threads accused 5G technology of spreading the virus. People started setting towers on fire, burning cell towers in the middle of a global health crisis. It felt like society was trying to speedrun the apocalypse. I didn't have a tweet for that one. And Trump. always Trump. His China virus tweets didn't just spread hate, they spawned an entirely new wave of misinformation. Suddenly, my timeline was full of posts blaming everything from bat soup to bioweapons. Racism, pseudoscience, and outright lies merged into a toxic stew, and Twitter let it happen. The platform slapped half-hearted warnings on tweets, but the damage was done. And for all the madness, I couldn't look away. My own tweets became fewer, but they reflected the frustration. It's now possible to self-test for #coronavirus, I posted in March. Submerge yourself in water until you're dead. If you're not dead after 5 minutes, you have coronavirus, and should probably just fucking top yourself anyway. Too dark? Maybe. But humour was my shield, my coping mechanism in a world gone mad. COVID's lingering legacy on Twitter. By the time 2021 rolled around, the dust had barely settled. COVID hadn't gone anywhere, and neither had the shit it brought to Twitter. But something felt different. The platform wasn't just a place to fire off pixel farts anymore. It had become a battlefield. People were exhausted, worn thin from endless debates over masks, vaccines, lockdowns, and lolcats. Twitter, the great amplifier, made sure no opinion went unheard, no matter how unhinged. A simple tweet about wearing a mask could spiral into a thread of arguments about personal freedom, public safety, and whatever the virus was even real. The worst was the moral grandstanding. Everyone became a health expert, a social justice warrior, or both. People tweeted photos of themselves staying at home, wearing masks and getting vaccinated, all with captions like, "Do your part." If you weren't posting about how responsible you were, you might as well have been killing grandma. Here in Japan, the lockdown was slow and lasted a long, long time. I developed face blindness, an actual condition where you cannot tell people apart. It wasn't just the pandemic, the world was crumbling in other ways too. Politics were a mess, the climate was spiraling, and every major event became a trending hashtag. Twitter magnified it all, from the Black Lives Matter protests to the storming of the US Capitol. COVID was just one piece of a much larger, much louder puzzle. In mid-2020, I felt the burnout. Doom scrolling became less about staying informed and more about punishment. Every refresh of the timeline brought another wave of despair. But for all its faults, Twitter wasn't all bad. There were moments of connection too. Mutual aid threads popped up, helping people find resources during lockdown, and health professionals shared vital information, cutting through the noise. So sometimes Twitter did what it was meant to do: connect people.